Wibble wobble, wibble wobble, wibble wobble. All William ever wanted in the whole world was to have a loose tooth. Everyone else in his class had one. Louis's twisted round and Rosa's lay flat on its back. But William's teeth seemed stuck, superglued to his gums. It isn't fair, said William. Everyone else at school tells loose tooth stories. Sammy swallowed his, Rosa's fell out down the toilet, and Louis's flew out when he scored a goal. When your loose tooth comes out, Grandma, said William, you get a silver dollar from the tooth fairy. Is that so? Said Grandma. Yes, said William, and if it comes out at school, you have to keep it somewhere safe. William continued. Vicky tied hers into the knot in her shoelaces, and Martin hid his in a cotton ball in his ear, and today Jasmine's got lost up her nose. Mrs. King said she'd keep them safe from now on. We have our little treasure boxes at Governor's Ranch, so we don't need to do any of those silly things. The next day, during quiet time, William felt one of his teeth move at last. Mrs. King, he cried, my tooth moved, I felt it. William pushed his tooth forward with his tongue, then sucked it back for Mrs. King to see. Look, Rosa, he said. Look, Louis. Push, pull, jiggle, joggle, poke, flick, wibble, wobble. Come on, William, called Mom at bedtime. How long does it take you to brush your teeth? A long time, said William. It hurts my loose tooth. William just couldn't leave his loose tooth alone. Push, pull, jiggle, joggle, poke, flick, wibble, wobble. Look, Louis, said William the next day, twisting his tooth round and round. Look, Rosa, he said as it lay flat on his back. By bedtime, William's tooth was hanging by one thin little thread. Push, pull, poke, flick, jiggle, joggle, wibble, wobble. Suddenly, the tooth flipped upside down and got stuck. Ow, ow, yelled William, jumping out of bed. Mom, Dad, he cried, rushing downstairs. Gently, Dad turned the tooth back right side up. Why doesn't it just come out, said William. Don't worry, said Dad. It will. In gym class the next day, William did his best somersault ever, and when he stood up, his tooth was sitting on his tongue. William took it out and looked at it. It was so tiny. I'll look at it after it until you go home, said Mrs. King, wrapping it up in a tissue and putting it on top of the filing cabinet. Then can I take it home? Asked William, feeling a bit wobbly himself. Of course, said Mrs. King. That afternoon, William sat poking his tongue into the hole in his gum, waiting for Louis to finish his art project. Suddenly, Louis shouted, "Arr!" and started dancing about. I've got paint in my eye! I'll get a tissue, Mrs. King said Rosa. Mrs. King dabbed Louis's eye. By the time Louis was cleaned up, it was time to go home. Look, Mom, William said, my tooth came out. Oh, William, said Mom, where is it? It's on top of the filing cabinet, wrapped up in a tissue, said William. Here it is, said Mrs. King. Then she said, Oh, it's gone. They searched everywhere. Suddenly, William stopped. Rosa gave Louis a tissue, he said, when he got red paint in his eye. Mom and Mrs. King looked at each other. Don't worry, William, said Mom, searching the wastebasket. We'll find it. William sat down and stared at his feet. He was missing his tooth very much by now. He was sure they'd never find it. Suddenly, Mom stood up. This might be it. She unwrapped a tissue, and there was William's tooth. Mrs. King washed the tooth and gave it back to William. Perhaps the tooth fairy will leave something special tonight, said Mrs. King, after all that. The next morning, William looked under his pillow. There lay a little wooden box. He lifted the lid, and inside was a shiny silver dollar. When William got to school, he told everyone his loose tooth story. I would think you'd like a rest from loose teeth for a while, William, said Mrs. King. Yes, said William, I would. On the way home from school, William took his silver dollar and bought an enormous ice cream. It had little colored candies stuck all over it, layers of chocolate and chewy toffee in the middle. William unwrapped it and took a big bite. Ping! Went the little colored candies. Crack! Went the chocolate. Squish! Went the ice cream. Crunch! Went the ice-cold rock-hard toffee. And guess what? Another tooth wiggled. Push, pull, jiggle, joggle, poke, flick, wibble, wobble. The end.